Hey guys, Taki here. We're only a few days into 2021 and the most prolific manufacturer of retro handhelds is back at it again with a metal rendition of one of their popular models from last year. In this video, we're going to take a look at the new RG351M. As you can see, the 351M comes in two color variations, matte black and a light green version that they're calling space gray. This new color is completely unique from any of the other Anbernic metal devices that they've released so far, and it's a welcome addition to the collection. Before we talk more about the 351M, I want to quickly go over the other metal RG devices, starting off first with the 350M. This device launched last year, and it was and still is significant because it came with a 480p 4x3 screen. After this, we got a plastic version of the same device, but the 480p screen was unfortunately replaced with a 240p option, but the device kept the same improved control scheme. Also around this time we got a 280V, and although we've never seen a plastic version of this device, this new 351M has more in common with it than it does with the 350M that launched this product range. Sitting side by side, you can see that this new 351M is essentially just a 351P and a metal shell, albeit with one important addition that is worth considering, especially if you do not own the plastic variation. The 351M comes with the exact same specifications as the 351P, including the exact same screen, with the new addition being a built-in Wi-Fi chip. I'll talk more about the significance of that in a moment, but I also want to quickly go over the build quality of the device in detail. Here you have a close-up view of that space gray model. You can see that we have the exact same control layout and the same 3x2 screen. There may be some of you out there that don't really understand why someone would buy this or the plastic version, and it really comes down to the screen in my opinion. If you love GBA, your options for gaming on official hardware really come down to getting a device with an AGS 101 screen or doing an expensive IPS mod. You can see the quality of the AGS 101 screen for yourself right now, and I've recorded this whole section in 4K to help illustrate just how good the IPS screen is in the 351 series with native 2x scaling. It's just clear as day the improvement that you get both in picture quality and in brightness in these new devices compared to real hardware. That being said, I still do enjoy using my SP from time to time due to its design. On the 351, you have the exact same D-pad that Anbernic has used in every device since the 350 series last year with the exact same membrane. The analog sticks also haven't changed, and the supplier for this component is shared by almost every device on the market, so you're not going to see anything different here. Moving on, there is a power button on the left side and an inline set of shoulder buttons on the top. In the middle, you have an OTG port, a headphone jack, and a combo OTG charging port. Now, one of the things that's unfortunate about this device is that when you do a CNC version like the one we have here, you have a chance to make alterations to things that you didn't do in your plastic injection mold, and it's almost like a blank slate. They could have used this opportunity to introduce HDMI out functionality, and it would have done a lot to help differentiate this product more than what we have here. On the right side of this, we have a volume slider, and I do just want to comment that these right and left panels are made out of plastic for the Wi-Fi. As you can see, it's not that obvious on this gray version. Finishing up, the bottom has a set of stereo speakers, a TF card slot, and a reset button. The 351P already had these rubber grips, so you can kind of see that this metal version was probably planned at the same time as that device was. I also just want to quickly show you what the 351M looks like compared to the 350M. They are almost exactly the same, but the 350M is slightly wider while the 351 is longer. On your screen now is what the firmware will look like when you get the device, and this is essentially the same firmware that is in the 351P. You have a bunch of ROMs already included on the 64GB SD card, and the artwork for some of these games has already been scrapped for you as you can see now, but there are better options out there than this. I've already gone ahead and installed ArcOS on my other 351M, and it makes this a much better product with that Wi-Fi chip. This installation doesn't come with any games or BIOS, so you're going to have to provide your own, but I've already gone ahead and added a bunch of stuff to illustrate the functionality of this system. If I go into a system really quick, you can see that my UI has a small spot in the corner for video snaps with the game titles in the center. I don't have video snaps for all of my ROMs on this system because the download speeds here in China are pretty slow, but I do have enough for this video. I plan on using this device almost entirely for GBA, so that's the only system that I've bothered to gather video snaps for. Even though this OS is better than the stock one, both are going to have a bit of a learning curve to them if you want to get the most out of your experience. These systems aren't pick up and play to the same extent that the 350 devices were, and there are many locations with different settings that you'll have to learn about, but you'll be more knowledgeable about emulation for it. You could do this with a dongle on the older model, but I really like scraping my games on the device itself without needing to do anything else. It's super easy with the menu in this firmware to get what you need. When you have video snaps, you can also use the screensaver function to shift between them, and this can be a good way of discovering a random game to play if you have a big library of stuff that you've never tried. When you find something that you like on screen, all you have to do is press start and it will boot up your game, and this is a cool feature of this OS. Another benefit of this built-in Wi-Fi chip is that you can remotely manage your files from a browser on the same network by just punching in a website address and logging in with the default username and password. You can also do this with an FTP client, but this is far more user-friendly, and it's one of the coolest things that I've seen in a retro handheld. It's probably a little known fact, but the 351P was actually supposed to ship with Wi-Fi, but that chip caused really bad audio interference anytime you use the device with Wi-Fi enabled, and it really ruined the product. Say what you will about the company, but Anbernic is one of those manufacturers that manages to consistently ship and produce a solid product, so it didn't really make sense that they would have a device with a flaw like this. Thankfully, that chip was removed on the versions that I reviewed, and we were left with a slightly lower priced 351P. I've checked this new model thoroughly, and they seem to have completely fixed this issue, and you should not be able to hear any interference even if you're using the Wi-Fi with the speaker directly in your ear. And believe me when I say, you'd notice it without trying. This 351P has the Wi-Fi chip, and it's been clicking away off camera while I filmed most of this video. Another benefit of this new built-in Wi-Fi chip is that you have the ability to net play any RetroArch game that supports the feature, but unfortunately don't expect to be doing any link cable GBA for the time being. The last feature of this firmware that I want to talk about is that it supports custom menu music, and I have 3 tracks that it cycles between whenever I use the device. This is just a small feature, but it's a nice way to make the device your own. For gameplay performance, I've already filmed a lot in my main 351P review, and I'll link that on screen now if you want to check out what this device can do. In the remainder of this video, I want to focus on the 3 systems that struggled on the 351P to see if anything has changed. We're going to start off first with N64 using the 64-bit version of RetroArch running Diddy Kong Racing. I have the FPS enabled on screen, but you'll be able to hear the differences in this example. In this intro clip, you can hear some slight lag in the audio and in the title screen, but it's not until we get to the character selection screen where things get really bad. I also want to point out that this is using the Rice Video plugin, which is the least demanding option out there, and it doesn't run well at all. Now let's take a look at the standalone core to see if there's a difference. This core does not support any RetroArch functions, so you will not see any FPS on screen, but again, just focus on the audio. It's a big improvement over the other core, and you will be able to enjoy many more games using this, but you do have to give up a lot of features to do so. The Drastic Emulator is another improvement with this system, as you can actually use the menu to change options in this firmware. Game performance is going to vary drastically from title to title, but this is more usable than it is in the stock firmware. Finally, Dreamcast. When these new platforms come out, you may hear many people say that emulation may improve as time goes on with more people getting the devices, but that almost never happens. Instead, look at what the platform can do from day one and buy it knowing that it may never change. Right now, I'm using what should be running the game without any issues, and it's having some big problems. If I change to another core, you can see that things are much worse. That gets down to the point that I want to make. You are almost never going to see improvements in these 3 systems without an Android release on this platform. I've mentioned this many times, but I actually have a 3326 development board. 3326 Android is much better than these Linux firmwares. It can play Dreamcast, and it can play N64 much better than the RP2, but for some reason, no one wants to take the Android SDK from Rockchip and port their drivers to it. This should be trivial for all of these manufacturers in this market, but they don't do it, and I don't know if it's because they don't want to spend money doing it, or they're afraid that other companies will just steal their work and use it on their own devices, since all of these clones run the exact same software. Whoever does make this jump is going to have a really good product, because the Android system, at least from what I can see, would make a really good device. All of these Anbernic products that use the RK3326 would be amazing Android handhelds if that were an option, for the simple fact that you can play Nintendo DS N64, and Dreamcast significantly better than what I just showed you. The RK3326 can even almost run some simple GameCube games, if you can imagine that. Anyway, that's a shorter version of the message that I've been trying to convey to all of the 3326 developers that I've talked to over the last year with no success. But here's hoping that in 2021, we will finally get there. It would be really awesome to have a metal Android gaming handheld with 2 analog sticks for the asking price of this 351M. As it currently stands, this is still the best 3326 implementation on the market that exists from all of the devices that I've seen and tested. I'm going to exclusively use this for GBA emulation because that's what it does better than anything else, and it feels a whole lot better to game on than my SP. My name is Taki and I've been your host on this review. If you like what you saw here, please consider showing your support by leaving a like and subscribing to the channel. I'll leave a link to Anbernic's store in the description box below, and I'll catch you here next time with another review. Happy gaming, everyone. Taki out.